Hello, mathematicians. Welcome. Today is Thursday. We're doing math again. So we're going to be looking at word problems today. We're trying to get to page 140 to 141 in our workbook. It's going to ask us questions, kind of like what we've been doing, about fractions of groups of whole numbers. So we were talking about a fraction of one numbers in like a half of one or a third of one, where it's getting smaller than one whole. But now we're talking about a whole bunch of wholes, like you got a whole bunch of apples, and they want to know, well, you got a whole bunch of apples, but how much is 1/3 of all of your apples? So fractions can be about just cutting one apple into smaller and smaller bits, or it can be about having a lot of apples and putting them in equal piles. Both of them are really just the same thing as division. You're either dividing up one apple into small bits, where each piece is the same size, or you're dividing up a whole bunch of apples, like a big box of apples, into equal piles. And somebody says, hey, I want some apples. And then you're like, well, how many do you want? And you're like, well, just give me half of yours, half of all of them. And then if you want it to be exactly half, you got to count all of them up, divide them into two piles, and you say, here you go, here's half of your apples. Or if somebody says, just give me a tenth. Well, then you got to know how much tenth is. You divide it into 10 piles, equal piles, and you give them one of those piles. So we're going to look at questions like this today. Jeremiah. Have I ever told you about Jeremiah? He's this kind of eccentric neighbor that I have. Kind of weird guy. But I like him. You know about Jeremiah. Okay, so hey, Jeremiah, he loves a bottle of kombucha. He's got 24 bottles of kombucha. 2/3 are ginger. How many are ginger? Whoa, that sounds like a few things we need to solve. He's got 24 bottles. 2/3 are ginger. How many are ginger? Any kind of problem like this, before you start answering what's 2/3 of that, you really don't know until you find out what's 1/3 of that. And then you just double it, because it's not, you put it into 3 piles, but he wants not just one pile, but 2/3, 2 piles. So you need to find out first, well, how much is 1/3? And then I can tell you how much 2/3 is. So the problem's going to look like this. This is what you're going to be seeing in your math book today, stuff like this, where you'll see a bar graph, and it'll have the total number, 24 in this case, and then we're talking about thirds. That means the 24 is in 3 piles. 3, in this case, 3 chunks of the bar. 1, 2, 3. And they want to say, hey, how much is 2/3? It's ginger kombucha. How much is that? Well, I don't really know offhand. I've got to figure it out. So first I've got to find out, well, hey, how much is in 1/3? That's something I can figure out. So remember, just like yesterday, the way we do that. So before we find out what 2/3 of 24 is, we've got to find out what is 1/3 of 24. That's something that we can solve. 1/3 of 24. Well, remember how we did that yesterday? You put the big number up top as in the total, like the total pile of apples, or the total number of kombucha. In this case, how many kombuchas do you have total? 24. So that's going to go on top, because that's what we're going to divide up into piles. And what's going to go on the bottom? We're trying to find thirds, right? So 3 is going to go on the bottom. Notice how the denominator, 2/3, 1/3, third, it stays the same. Once you see what the denominator is, you just say, oh, I see what it is. It's 3. I'm going to plug it in right here. It's 3. See how it's 3 every time? Because we're talking about thirds as in 3 piles. So that's a big thing to remember. The denominator does not change in these kind of problems. Once you see what it is, then it's, oh, easy peasy. I put the big number on top. Denominator stays the same. Now let's see if we can figure it out. 1/3 of 24 is going to be 24 Divide into 3 chunks. 24 thirds, 24 over 3. 24 divided by 3. That's how you set it up. Total number up top. On the bottom stays the same. We're still talking about thirds. So 24 thirds. Well, what's 24 divided by 3? Anybody know? Or what's 3 times what is 24? It's going to be 8. If we wanted to, we could do it the way we've been doing it too, where you think, oh, 24 over 3 equals well, I divide each one by 3. Divide the 3 by 3 and the 24 by 3. You're going to get 8 over 1, which equals 8. Either way, all you're really doing is just saying 24 divided by 3. That's going to give you a third. And you're going to know, oh, 1/3 is 8. So, once you know what 1/3 is, what was the question? We want to know how much 2/3 is, right? So how much is 2/3 if 1/3 is 8? 8 in this pile, 8 in this pile, 8 in this pile. We're talking about 2 piles. 8 plus 8 is 16. We'll do another one. This is from the book. We have a whole bunch of apples. There are 42 apples. 2/7 of the apples are red, and the rest are green. How many are green? They keep giving us these two-step problems. Well, let's see. We got 42 apples up top, 42 total. We put them into 7 equal piles. 2/7 are red. So how many 7s are going to be green? Well, 2/7 plus what equals the whole thing, the 7/7. It's going to be 2 plus 5. It's going to be the whole thing. So 2/7 are red. So 2 piles are red of the 7 piles. 5/7 are green. And they're asking us, well, hey, how many apples are green? Well, what do? Remember from last time? We got to find out what's 1/7. How many are in 1 pile before he asks me how many are in 5 piles? What's 1/7 of 42? So think about how we're going to set that up. The total number of apples is going to go on top. We're setting up that division problem, fractions as division. So what's the big number we see up here? Ding, 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 42. That's going to go on top. What's going to go on bottom of this fraction when we try to find out what's 1/7? Total up top. We're dividing into 7 piles. 7th, 7th, 7th stays the same. We're talking about 7ths. Denominator stays the same in these kind of problems. We got 42 apples. We're going to divide that up into 7 piles, 42 over 7, and that's going to tell us how much is 1/7. Anybody know what 42 divided by 7 is? That's where you should really be looking at a multiplication table if you don't know that problem. You'll probably find one easily on the internet. I could try to find one and link it too. I'll do that. 42/7. Well, 42 divided by 7. 7 times what is 42? 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. 6. 6/7 is 42. So the answer is 6. 1/7 is 6th. 6. So if 1/7 is 6, we're trying to find out, they're asking about green, which is how many 7ths? Oh, 5. So if 1/7 is 6, how many's 5/7? Well, we got 5 fingers. Let's see. Green, there it is. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Oh, wait. It's 6. Okay, dang it. Sorry about that. So it's 6 times 5. What's 6 times 5? 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. There we go. Okay. Everybody makes mistakes, including me, all the time. 6 times 5 is 30. So green is going to be 6 times 5 equals 30. 5/7 of green are 30. Right there. 5. We knew what 1/7 was. 1/7 was 6. So we just go 6 times 5 because we're talking about 5/7. So in all these problems, first you set it up, always the same. Put the number of the total on top. You don't really need to draw it. Just put the number of the total on top. And then the bottom number, the denominator, stays the same. 7ths. We're talking about 7ths. Once you divide the total by that number, it's 42 over 7. 42 divided by 7. 42/7. It's all the same thing. You're going to get 6. That's going to tell you how much is 1/7. And then you think, well, then look back at the problem. See how many they're asking to find out. They're asking you to find out 5/7. Well, 6 times 5. It's 30. So we're going to be doing pages 140 and 141. You're going to be just like what we just did. Find out what one of those groups is. 1/6, 1/3, 1/8. And then look at it again and be like, do they just want to know about 1/6 or do they want to know about 3/6? Do they just want to know about 1/8 or do they want to know about 3/8? Once you find out what 1/8 is, you just triple it and you know what 3/8 is. But first you got to find out what the 1 unit is. You can do it.